The letter Q stands for queasy. One of the parts of the Bible reads something like this: "My inward parts are in turmoil and are never still, and the days of affliction come to meet me. I go about in sunless gloom. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help." That's the character called Job in the Bible. Now, I live in Florida, so it is difficult to talk about sunless gloom. We just talk about the gloominess brought about by this pandemic. We cannot even stand up in the assembly and complain. We are more likely to do that than cry for help. That does not mean that our inward parts are not in turmoil, for they are. And it is not from something that we ate or that we drank. I think each of us is aware that there is some situation that will cause us to become queasy, ill at ease in our inward parts. Perhaps it's waiting at the dentist's office, maybe at the airport, or sitting on the plane waiting for takeoff. I know of a multitude of competent, confident people whose insides turned to jelly if I had managed to coerce them into being a liturgist at a Sunday morning worship service. Just the idea of public speaking sends many people searching for the nearest restroom. And not only are we aware of that sensitive point, so is our inner critic, who delights in reminding us about that weakness. The voice says, "Oh, you know you can't do that. Think of how your stomach will feel." And then, even if we're not committed to do whatever it is that makes us queasy, just a reminder from our inner critic suffices to bring up that emotion. One discussion topic I have found which will pretty much make everyone queasy: no one wants to talk about death. Just try starting a conversation with, "What's going to happen to this antique when you die?" Or, "Let's talk about your funeral arrangements." Or, "Do you want to be intubated in the hospital?" Generally, that will either end the conversation or produce a rapid change of subject. I do try to sneak it into a conversation surreptitiously. "What did you think about the funeral service for Aunt Emma?" Or, "Have you ever heard of the grave adopters at the American Cemetery in the Netherlands?" But as soon as the hearers become aware that the real topic is going to be planning for their death and funeral arrangements, those people begin to turn green and shift about as their inward parts begin to rumble and tumble. COVID-19 is not making anything easier. People are being struck down, never having even broached the topic of intubation or extraordinary measures. A loved one dies, and there are absolutely no instructions they have left. Often not even a will can be found. Talk about being caught in emotional turmoil. Here it comes. How could he or she do this to me? Die and leave me not knowing where the checkbook is, or the insurance policies, or anything. I don't even know if he had a will. Anger at the deceased for having died is not unusual. Emotions, some justified and some not, of abandonment, betrayal, and rage will mix with grief, loneliness, and helplessness. Often all the emotions are so overwhelming that numbness sets in and everyone is just frozen in place, unable to make any decisions at all. And then the inward parts tumble as those left behind think about property deeds, estates, And lawyers. Talk about feeling queasy. No one thinks they're going to die, or to be struck down in the next 24 hours. But it will happen, for we all have a final 24 hours. We just do not know when the clock begins ticking.